Confess to fess.
Confess to fess. I'll be right back, folks.
Welcome back to City Council, our first Enterprise Fund budget meeting. It is 9:59. We'll call it 10 a.m., and we will call this meeting to order. Our itinerary starts with discussion of matters regarding the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget preparation, including but not limited to one enterprise funds, revenue expenditures, and you're on with water.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, ma'am. Tina Deersky, Director of Finance. Today we'll go through our major enterprise operating funds, and we'll start out, like you said, with the water fund. Water sales is projected to increase by $500,000. Rates are not increasing, but there is an expected increase in consumption. Other is up mostly due to an increase in interest income, but there were some increases for lake use revenue and transfers in for billing and collections in COSA DC as well. And on the expenditure side, personnel is up mostly due to increases in our TMRS and workers' comp rates. There is a decrease to transfers out to capital projects fund of $3.2 million for the meter replacement program. That's offset by some increases in contract services, and there's a corresponding increase in capital projects where we account for the meter replacement program.
I will start by asking one question because I get a lot of phone calls and I know everyone else does. How are we on water?
Shane?
Do we have the water we need? And give us some information in terms of what you think is going to happen in the next few months.
Yes, ma'am. No, we're actually, and of course, we're going to get our new, at the end of the month, here at the end of June, 1st of July, we will get our new numbers from the Colorado River Municipal Water District on Lake Ivy. Lake Ivy has actually caught some water, and so about 23,000 acre feet the last time that I checked on it. And so that is helping us out. Back in April, the last time that we ran the numbers, we were at 32 months of water supply. So, of course, it's starting to get low, but it's nowhere near our triggers to go into our drought contingency plans. And so that starts at 24 months. And so, again, we are starting to, start seeing the declines. We have not seen any water or any appreciable runoff in Twin Buttes or O.C. Fisher or any of the rest of the lakes. It's just primarily been Lake Ivy. And so, but again, I did visit with the Colorado River Municipal Water District the other day, and they thought that, of course, their timeline for the lake to run out of water, or to be able to pump water out of the lake, was October 1, last of September, 1st of October of 25, which is right around the corner. They thought that would definitely push well in, with the runoff that we have seen so far in Lake Ivy, that would definitely push us well into 26 before we would run out of water in Lake Ivy. So again, looking good there. We are with the Hickory Wellfield expansion, when we finalize that project this late summer, early fall, that will allow us to be able to pump up to 12 million gallons a day versus the 8 million where we were before. So again, we will be able to utilize more of the Hickory water if it becomes necessary. Again, we don't necessarily want to use that water as it's more expensive to treat and put into the system. But again, it will be available by this fall if we have to rely on it. But again, right now we're not in great shape, but we're not raising the red flags and worrying too hard yet. So.
Well, I hate to bring this up, but I know this morning on the news, they talked about a little hurricane being developed off the coast that would
Up the Gulf
impact
Coast.
Texas. So we know that generally hurricane season off that coast can bring some substantial rains and not just 2 points or 3 points worth of rain.
Yep. And so, and that has been, everything west of here has been, minimal as far as rain. We haven't had any of those big rains. It's been, maybe an inch or half an inch here and an inch there, inch and a half maybe. So again, really haven't seen that runoff back to the west. We have seen it from here to, like I said, Lake Ivy. But again, tropical weather is that is where we actually see the big rains, where we'll get the running water and we can fill up our reservoirs. So we're definitely hoping for that again, so this fall.
Well, we also remind everybody that the reason we don't want to use Hickory aquifer water at this point is because evaporation is a killer, and we want to use our surface water first, which is
The
Lake
lakes,
Asworthy
yeah.
and the other lakes. So we lose a lot to evaporation, and we want to use it before it all goes up in the air.
That is correct. So no, but we're not in dire straits yet. But again, we are praying for rain.
Okay, you're on. Sorry. Questions from council on this first slide? So the 500,000 in new sales, you believe is increased? I think I'm ringing.
A little bit.
Can you hear me without it ringing? So it's 500,000 in because of development in new homes? Is it current use? What are you projecting, Shane?
Yes, ma'am. We're predicting it. Just looking how we're trending over sales over the past. Actually, we looked at the past 3 or 4 or 5 years, and actually how we've been trending over that amount of time, and kind of looking at what we're projecting next year. Primarily is due to growth in the city. We're starting to see our numbers rise a little bit in water sales and water consumption. Kind of seeing that same effect on the wastewater side as well, as far as what we're seeing coming into the plant. And so it is due to growth. We're starting to see some growth due to more homes and actually population growth. So again, we were pretty conservative on our number this year, as we are looking at the dry conditions and the drought conditions going. Luckily, we did have a wet spring, and so we haven't seen water sales really spike at this point in the year. But again, as we're looking forward in the next year without any major rainfall, and if we did have to go into drought contingency levels, we wanted to be very conservative with those numbers moving into this next year.
And then on the other line, you want to go back through the $859,394 increase and exactly what that entails.
It's mostly increased due to interest income. Let's see, 665,000 of that is interest income. There's some increase from the interest from Fund 640, the Lake Nasworthy Trust Fund, and that equates to about a $12,000 increase. There's an increase in transfers in from the Development Corporation to cover the Fort Stockton Holding Rights Agreement, and that's $59,000. And then some increases in billing and collections of about $32,000. Lake use revenue increase of about $89,000. So all of those combined make up that.
Shane, you want to talk about the Concho River project and where we're at on that project?
Yes, ma'am. We're working with our consultants on that. Currently, we are waiting on our bed and banks permit through the TCEQ currently for it to go through review, come back to us, and once we get that, then of course we have to go through all the processes with that. Once we to finalize the permit, once the permit's finalized, then we can actually start design and construction documents moving forward. So again, still in a holding pattern, waiting for that permit.
Okay. Questions or comments from council for Shane? Okay, so move forward.
On the Water Reclamation Fund or the Sewer Fund, also projecting increased consumption there in the amount of about $362,000. And that other line, again, is mostly increased due to interest income, but there are also some increases in farm use revenue. And then on the expenditure side, up there again, you'll see that throughout the presentation, that personnel will be up due to the increase to TMRS and workers' comp rates. And then O&M is increase of transfers out to his capital projects fund.
A question I get from people is the following, or a question I get from people. So if you use 10,000 gallons of water, but that water is primarily used, let's say, not household use, but it's your swimming pool or your irrigation, we don't separate and don't have the ability to separate those uses from just household use where sewage would be a piece of that, unlike irrigation, unlike swimming pool evaporation. It still uses a lot of water.
Yes, ma'am. And we do have a few homeowners that do actually have a separate irrigation meter at their residence that is separated off. That's the only way that we actually are able to get that separated. But most homes, it is that way. And so we calculate sewer based on averages in the winter months, not the summer months. So we don't, we're actually looking at it from that perspective, trying to make sure that we're not accounting their sewer rates as part of irrigation or and those other things, or filling up swimming pools, those type of things, that we don't use that as the part of the calculation in the sewer rate.
That's an important announcement so to make, because people don't always understand that. And I think we need to make sure publicly, as you just did, how we do it,
Yes,
et
ma'am.
cetera.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Questions? Yes,
I have a
yes, go
question.
ahead,
Shane?
Tommy.
I know you have talked to us in the past about just inflation and increasing prices on everything. Just in general, you don't have to do anything specific, but just in general, what are your costs increasing year over year now in water and wastewater?
Yeah, chlorine still is the biggest driver in our inflation in the treatment processes, and it continues to rise. We haven't been able to lock in a chlorine contract in a long time. Those guys, we're having to constantly, rebid those numbers annually, if sometimes not more, because a lot of times we'd always put in the contract price plus 4% or whatever. And it's been far exceeding 4% for the last 3 or 4 years. And so from an increase. And so that's one of our biggest drivers. We have seen some other chemicals that we use that we're seeing some increases on. But those we use them in a lot less volume, so it hasn't been as hard on us there. But again, we're seeing a 5 to 10% increase pretty easy. We've had some years where we saw 50 and 100% increases on those chemicals. But this year, We're not predicting it to be as bad this year, and so kind of looking at that, probably a 10% increase unless something happens,
Yeah,
so.
good.
But
Okay,
that's,
thank you. I know we tend to overlook, in my opinion anyway, overlook the fact that there are price increases in the municipal world, just like there are in everybody else's world.
Yes, yeah.
And it's like, well, why can't you do it for what you did it last year and the year before? So, yeah, thank you.
yes, sir.
We're lucky, the good news, bad news is the following. The good news is we're getting higher interest rates, so our interest is building. The bad news is it costs money to borrow money.
Yes, ma'am.
And higher than it's been. But over the past year, or 2 years ago, we were not receiving additional income based off of interest. And you'll see from the previous slide and this slide, there's some significant dollars being accumulated based off of interest on the money.
Ma'am, it's helping.
Other questions or comments for Shane? Okay, move on to,
Okay, next up is the Stormwater Fund. Fee revenue here is actually projected slightly up due to expected growth. Other income is also up due to interest income. And then on the expenditure side, personnel is up mostly to those increases in TMRS and workers' comp, and O&M is up due to increases in indirect cost, vehicle maintenance, and tools.
questions on stormwater? Seeing none, no comment, continue.
Solid Waste Fund is next. User fees are projected to increase due to the residential and commercial contract fees and also landfill fees. Other income is up mostly due to interest income. Personnel up just slightly there, and O&M is down to a decrease in budgeted permitting costs, excuse me, associated with the new landfill site. And then it is offset by an increase to transfers out for billing and overhead.
Questions, comments on the solid waste fund? Hearing none, move on.
Next up is the airport fund. The primary revenue source for the airport fund continues to be lease income. Leases are up a little bit for next year. There's also an increase to the concessions car rental account, which is offset some by a decrease in rental income. Other income is up again due to interest income projections. Excuse me. Personnel is up just slightly. For O&M, there's an increase in general ground maintenance and insurance, which is also offset by a decrease to our local match requirement for the tech stock grant. The remainder of the budget goes to the capital account to help with projects as they come up throughout the year at the airport.
Jeremy, could you come forward? Welcome.
Morning.
Good morning. You want to talk about the car rental, the new car rental that will be starting soon?
It has started,
I think
Mayor.
It started
Yep.
because there've been so many complaints over the past year about lack of car rentals. So you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we now have Brevard Capital Group, which is Hertz Dollar Thrifty. The doors are open. They were having reduced services while they were trying to get vehicles, but they are fully stocked now. And they're looking at building a car wash station to improve that area out there. So they are there for the last flight of the night. The doors are open, so people are able to come and get cars. And Avis is still selling out, and Hertz is able to fill that gap.
Great. All right, so then my next question is talk about Enplane and how many, are we filling the planes? Are we not filling the planes? What's going on with passenger levels?
We're still filling the planes. Our load factors are still in the 80 to 90% range. However, they have reduced capacity. They're down to 3 flights a day instead of the 6 we used to have.
3 in and 3 out.
3 in and 3 out, yep. So our enplanements are slowly decreasing. We're down to about 55,000 enplanements for the year. Next year's projections, I did meet with American, and they're not projecting to increase our flights. Usually in the summer months is when you'd see the flight increase to the 4. We didn't see the 4. And I've got the schedule through August, and we still only have the 3 flights.
And then the taxiway, where are we on being able to get the extension of the taxiway for hangar development?
South Taxi Lane is still under consideration. The mod to standard is with the region. The region has kind of put a stop to it for now because they want to cut it back to 35-foot wide taxiway instead of the 50 feet as our master plan suggests with our design group. So we are working with them to try and get it. If we have to go 35 feet to stick to the standards, we'll do it. But we do prefer the 50 feet.
But we really prefer having that taxiway extended.
It needs to be
That's our
done.
number one goal.
It needs to be done. And if it's 35 feet to meet FAA design standards, then that's what it's going to have to be. But we're working with them to get the best product we can for the available grant money.
And I think we should, but I know one thing, we need hangars.
Yes.
People, there's a huge demand for hangars. We want to get this done. It's been a conversation for quite a while, so I respect the desire based off of a master plan to be 50 feet, but we need hangars developed out there.
Yeah, I agree. And the only restriction is if we cut it down to 35 feet, we could be cutting some of those tenants that want to build out because we won't have the same wingspan capacities that we would with a 50-foot wide taxiway. So we don't want to limit ourselves on our ability to grow, but we do need the taxi lane.
Is there a possibility of having part of it 50 feet and the other part 35? So where you had the larger hangars, if you first enter that hangar area, it could be wider and then it goes down to narrow as you get to the smaller hangars. Is that possible?
Not with federal funding, with our current conversation. Again, we're working that to try and get it approved through the region. But no, not the way that the FAA does it based off your airport design group. We're an airport design group 3, which is 50-foot wide taxiways. It's a 35-foot wide taxi lane. FAA is very strict on standards. So we're trying to get a mod to the standard to allow for a 50-foot wide taxiway plus a reduced spec and a tech stop mix so we can get it funded.
So where are we on that process?
It's
Halfway
still-
there? Not anywhere?
I keep saying we're right to the finish line, but it's been held up for the region for quite some time now. We did talk to them earlier this week, and they're still working they're now taking it to Washington, D.C., just to try and get the 50-foot approved, but right now it's really being held up with that 35 feet, so I don't know. I don't know the answer to
Or the reverse is
that.
being held up because they want 35 and we want 50?
Right, yes, yeah. And then we're not using FAA entitlement money, we're not using discretionary money, we're using our bill money that's awarded and allotted to us. In my opinion, we should be able to use that for what our need is, but the FAA is trying to reduce the amount we're going to spend on this so that we can use the rest of that money for the taxiway reconfiguration to taxiway hotel. So they're strategic in their funding mechanisms, but I don't think we're going to get the best product for our money if we just let it go.
Okay. Questions for Jeremy?
I
Yes,
assume,
comment.
back to the American, just a moment, I assume Americans getting per seat mile what they want or need or in excess of, and they're not gonna reduce their rates.
No, and that was my conversation with them because they are getting the value out of it. People are paying it, the seats are filling up. We do have a pilot shortage. That's what they keep bringing up. It's the biggest problem. The pilot shortage is really reducing the amount of aircraft that are able to come in. So that's the biggest challenge right now is pilot shortage and no competition in San Angelo. American has the market.
Oh, we've got one sitting right here, we can put him to work.
Hold on. Yes.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yes, Tom?
Jeremy, we spent a lot of time last week going over a lot of things. Lorelei, don't touch the button. All right, thank you, ma'am. We were both in the switch. We went over a lot of things last week, talking about the future, the momentum, what creates growth within our system. And I think it's important to know that we discussed moving forward with hangar development, hangar contracts. You could build these hangars knowing that at least one side of the taxiway is going to complement it. That won't change. The 35 and the 50 feet is on the other side. I mean, I just want to stress to you, I think it's important that you go ahead and move down that path, like Brenda said, is is if we have the ability to go forward and get those hangars started, there's VC money, there's things we can do to go ahead and start the momentum there. And on top of that, you talked about I'm glad to see the increases in the leases, because I think we get what we pay for and then some. And I think as it boils back down to, and as we get the sewer system and the water fixed out there, that's probably going to be the largest growth in the next 10 years is going to come from that side of the bridge. I just think it's super important to go ahead and go down that path if we can do the hangars, if we can start. And I know it all hinges on the taxiway, and there's so many elements involved here that people that aren't aware of, about the concrete spec, the asphalt, the fact that local people won't build to that spec. They just said it costs too much for the change, and we're not going to accommodate that. So that number's gone tenfold what we thought the original budget was. And those things are very disheartening to hear, but I think we're on the right path. And I'll stick with Brenda. Anytime we can start moving forward with whatever we can, we'll chase the money, we'll chase the grants, we'll chase the funding and go forward. You've got, I would imagine, unlimited support from council.
Great, thank you.
I also want to bring up the subject that, about budget airlines or low-cost airlines, airlines that might not fly into the major markets, but fly into some secondary markets. Do we have people calling us saying, hey, we want to talk to you about bringing airline service to San Angelo that might fly to Las Vegas, might fly to Phoenix, might fly to Oklahoma City, et cetera? Are we getting those phone calls? Is there anyone viable out there who would be interested in having that conversation?
We're not getting those phone calls, but I think those conversations can be had after the direction from you. I am talking to an air service development contractor, but prior to COVID, I came in and said we're having record-breaking years in air service. People are buying tickets, they're flying out. We've broken records this year from pre-COVID numbers. So people are flying. The legacies are making their money with the high-priced tickets. I mean, there are high-priced tickets everywhere. And the low-cost carriers that you're talking about are making significant money with the low-cost routes. But they're a point-to-point destination, and I think we do have a good dog in that fight, a good conversation to be had with them for a low-cost carrier to fly to San Angelo. But that comes from us. They're not calling us. We need to seek them. The concern with them is they like minimum revenue guarantees. They like cash up front. They want some type of a commitment. But I am working with an air service development guy to work that out.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Other questions for Jeremy? Larry?
A very minor question. It's good to see the increase there in leases and concessions. But how much are you losing every month with the restaurant that's not open?
It's about 30,000, not every month. Every year it's about 30,000 that restaurant's not open.
Any nibbles?
Yeah, we got a few interested. The restaurant is not in great shape. The floor it's an old restaurant that when we did the 2016 remodel, the FAA didn't contribute any money towards that portion of the building. So once we moved all the grills and cookers, we saw what was underneath them, and the floor is deteriorating. It needs some work. So there's two individuals I'm talking to that want to come in and put some capital investment into the restaurant, but we're not there yet. We're getting close.
You know, the issue with restaurants is, number one, you make money if you have traffic. You got to have bodies, and when you only have 3 flights in and 3 flights out, you don't have a lot of bodies there, number one, and you can't make money if you don't have a lot of volume. But second of all, the success of airport restaurants generally is building a big enough reputation that people come out there, not because they're flying out, but because you have great food. And that's one of the things that was so successful with the Chinese restaurant before, is people went out there to eat at the Chinese restaurant. They had a great reputation, and it didn't matter. People weren't flying in or out. They were out there having lunch. And we need to make sure that the persons considering leasing understand building a reputation to bring in traffic that's not generated just by flyers or people waiting for flights to come in or out. Okay. Other questions or comments for Jeremy? Let's get those taxi lane built,
Okay, thank you.
our big objective.
Yeah.
All right, the Development Corp. Economic Development Fund, Michael?
I'll get him started, and then if y'all have any questions,
Yeah.
I'll pass the
Yeah.
baton to him. Of course, the Development Corporation is primarily funded through the Type B sales tax, 28% of which is allocated for economic development initiatives. Staff is proposing sales tax at a 3% decrease from FY '24's projected year end. This will be updated in line with whatever we adopt for the general fund budget. Other here includes rent and interest, and the projected increase is due to rental income. Interest, we have reviewed since we made this presentation, and we will be updating that number to reflect a $232,000 increase to interest income. Okay, and on the expenditure side, there's a slight decrease to personnel. This budget includes funding for 3 positions for next year for the Economic Development Corporation. Partner affiliations decreased just slightly. O&M decreased because of a decrease in indirect costs, which was largely due to less activity and work and support required of city staff and departments. Future projects, of course, is what will be available for opportunities as they come up throughout next year.
Okay, so on the issue of future projects, does that include the 29th Street? Is that the 29th Street project we've been waiting 10 years for?
No, ma'am. All of the ballot projects that were approved by the voters have already been funded, are accounted for in our capital projects fund on the city side.
Okay. As it relates to leases, I think there was a line that's inclusive of leases, of the availability, of the available space for leases at the SBDC building. What's vacant, and what are we doing to try to fill the vacancies?
I think we have somebody coming in and we don't have any more vacancies at
Okay.
this point.
That's what we want to hear.
The lease rates are very low, obviously designed to stimulate activity. Help those people get started and spin off into a bigger, better location.
Okay. Questions or comments for Michael? Yes, Tom?
So when we look at, Michael, when we look at the revenue or the budget for future projects, what's unused at the end of the year? What happens to those projects, to that funding? If something goes unused by the end of the year, does it carry over?
Dollar-wise, not
Dollar-wise,
project-wise.
If it's,
Or both.
if it's money set aside for a project and the project's not complete, we carry that money forward in that project line and it continues to be available for that project. In this case, future projects is monies that are not yet designated for projects in this budget cycle. In addition to that money, we have fund balance monies that could be brought to the table if we had a project. So if we reach the end of the year and we haven't used money in future projects, it goes to fund balance and then can be brought back out. We can draw on fund balance. You see where we do that in earlier today when we bought software, part of that payment was because they had accumulated money in fund balance and they wanted to use part of that fund balance for that project. Be the same way in COSA DC. That fund balance could be used for a future project. This is just the excess of revenue over other expenditures in this year.
That's exactly what I wanted to know. Thank you, Michael.
Other questions, comments for Michael? Okay, moving on.
Okay, moving on to COCDC ballot side. Of course, 72% of the Type B sales tax goes for the ballot side, which was used to fund, like I said, voter-approved projects, but also then the remainder would go to long-term water supply. So we are, again, projecting sales tax up there at almost $370,000 based on the same philosophy as the EcoDev side. That'll be updated as well. Other includes interest on this one, and it will be updated to reflect a $193,000 increase. Affordable housing remains the same per the ballot, while water has increased for the Fort Stockton Water Rights Agreement. O&M decreased because of a decrease in debt transfers, and then future projects, again, here is what's available for projects as they come up.
And the ballot is the future projects ballot is the 29th Street? Or is that still on that other line?
That's in Fund 502, capital projects on the city side, and there is a budget there for that in that other fund.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions or comments? Moving on.
All right, moving on to the hotel occupancy tax fund. FY25 hotel tax revenues are budgeted at FY24 projected year end with a 5% decrease at just under $3 million for next year. Hotel tax and interest income are trending upward next year, and we've budgeted flat with the previous year for expenditures according to the original budget from last year, and we'll have a breakdown of those expenditures on the next slide.
Okay.
So here is what we have funded in the past. All of those, again, remaining flat for next year. The Railway Museum right there at the bottom has a to-be-determined amount, only because it was not included in last year's original budget, but that's up for council's discussion and direction to fund that as well for next year. We do have the funding there and available if you should choose to do so.
Explain that, because we did approve
We
the
approved it.
25,000.
Yes, ma'am, we did, and it wasn't approved until after the original budget was adopted, and so because it wasn't in the original budget, we're comparing apples to apples here.
But you brought it back in
Yes,
October
ma'am.
and we approved it.
Yes, ma'am, so it was in the revised budget.
So
that's
so then explain this.
So I just need direction to include it in this year's original budget, and that way it can be on this slide from now on.
Good, okay.
Also, I want to point out here that SACAC, San Angelo Cultural Affairs Council, is going through some changes with their organization. We're working through the contract and the details of all of that with our city attorney and with that organization, but we've included a placeholder here of the $75,000 that we usually give them, and we'll come back to council at a future meeting and discuss how to move forward with that program.
All right, and Rick, you're working on some potential plans for how we would manage.
Yeah, we can talk about that. We've done it in a variety of ways over the history. Used to, the city reviewed those, but now then they contracted out with this group because there were so many, but now it's become more standardized as to what you're doing. So we can discuss how we want to do that, whether we want to pull it in-house and then y'all can allocate those funds, or yes, we'll look at some options.
Okay, Gary?
Before we get off this slide, do we need to give you some direction on the Railway Museum?
Well, we just answered a question. Do you want it included in the budget for next year? And we said yes.
Okay, I just want to
We
make
just
sure.
said that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's all I need.
yeah.
That'll
we just
do it.
Already said that. Okay.
Okay. Any more discussion on hotel tax or?
I know a lot of people are here today prepared to make some presentations, and the question mark is the following. Do we want to hear everyone's presentation? Because I think people are prepared to present today.
That works for me, Mayor. After this, I have only one more fund, the Civic Events Fund, so we could do that now and then move on to the Civic Events
Yeah,
Fund if you'd
we should
like.
do that. So it's not required. So if you aren't coming forward with a presentation, it's okay. But if you spent the time to create a presentation, we are inviting you to do so today. So we'll start with SAPAC. Would you like to come forward and present how the money was used this year, or what you're planning to use the money for in the 24-25 budget?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council, City staff. SAPAC, we really appreciate the HOP funds we get every year. It helps us try to promote our events throughout, not just San Angelo and the Concho Valley, but as far west as Odessa, Midland, north as Lubbock, east to Killeen, Waco, and then down to Del Rio and even Fredericksburg and San Antonio. And over the past year, we've seen a lot of success with people traveling to San Angelo for some of the shows that we've had. So we like to believe we've made San Angelo a great stop along people's journeys through West Texas, and we see ourselves as contributing to the city being the gem of West Texas. And if you can be anywhere and enjoy the arts, this is a place to be. And we use the funds to help cover the cost of advertising to those different locations, as well as bringing in some shows to SAPAC. One thing that we've done though differently from last year to this year and going forward, is we've reduced the number of shows that we present ourselves because its cost, as everyone we've discussed here with inflation and doing business, has increased. So we focus a lot more on rentals. So the goal is to help more national promoters bring their shows to San Angelo and consider us in routing their tours if they're going through West Texas, if they're coming through Dallas to San Antonio, or even going as far south as McAllen, Texas. And we've seen some success with that. We've increased the number of promoters that we've been dealing with over the past year, and we've also encouraged local promoters to use our venues too to bring in their shows to support the arts here. So we really appreciate it. We couldn't do what we do without your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Destination Marketing Organization.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us here today. I'm sorry I didn't prepare an electronic version for you, but just to kind of give you an update on where we are now. 2024, as we have started out, we have seen large increases in large groups for the fiscal year 2024. With that, some of those new groups that we talked about last year, I know that was a big discussion point. The American Society Civil Engineers, they brought in 750 people in April. The Canadian Royal Air Force, which helps Mr. Valgertson as well, spent the entire month of February here. We had the American Legion here during the month of February as well, or March, for their regional convention. So we've seen a lot of large groups come in, and that has helped us. With 3,000 hotel rooms here in town, I think that we're seeing the revenues come up, which is in 2023, we saw record-breaking numbers, even pre-COVID numbers for revenue. Occupancy is still a little low. We understand that.
I noticed April's occupancy was down.
It was a little bit lower than what 2023's April occupancy was, and I'm not really sure exactly why that was, especially having that large group here, essentially for the week with ASCE. That's a little concerning. But March was down this year. And
So 2 months in a row it's been down.
Well, April came back up from March. March was a little lower.
The numbers we got last week from from the state of Texas showed it down.
Okay. Well, my STR reports,
Yeah.
the STAR reports, the CoStar reports, Smith Travel reports that we get, were showing that April had come back up. Still, occupancy is still a little bit low, but the RevPAR and the overall average daily rate has climbed.
Hold on.
I'll let you take a look at
Go
what
ahead,
you've
keep
got. Oh, no,
talking.
you're fine. You're
And
fine.
I'll find my note here, but you just keep on talking.
Well, at the beginning of the year, a marketing plan workshop was held. And during that, the entire marketing plan was revamped, recreated. With that, we came out with Cowboys and Creatives. That takes our cultural heritage along with as Yuki just mentioned, the visual arts and all of the arts that we have here in the city. And combine those two, put them together, and it's created a great buzz out there. You've seen our advertisements have obviously changed quite a bit. No more kayaks on the river. We are branching out and going beyond that.
Just to be very specific, so in accommodations, we got 2,652 this year compared to last year's 2,772.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So a decrease of 4.33%.
4.3. Yes, ma'am. Understood. So occupancy is something that we're always struggling with here in San Angelo. It roughly hovers around 60%, and that's something that I'm not really happy with, something that I'd want to change, obviously.
Well, if you look at history, and I'm big on history, as you know.
Yes, ma'am.
So the Destination Marketing Organization used to be called the Convention Visitors Bureau.
CVB,
For a
yes,
reason.
ma'am.
The focus was on convention and visitors to our town who booked hotel rooms, so the hotel tax was very much directed by that.
Yes, ma'am.
And we need to make sure that we continue to focus on filling hotel
Yes.
rooms, not on sponsorships of events in our town where hotel rooms aren't booked.
Right.
We've got to find the path forward to get people from out of town booking their conventions in our town to build up that, because it is a tough struggle when you're looking at one hotel room at a time.
Yes, ma'am.
It's very hard.
Yes, ma'am.
And so it's got to be on how do we focus our marketing to bring in, first and foremost, conventions and understanding the size of convention that we can handle, because I know that there's challenges as it relates to breakout spaces, et cetera.
Yes, ma'am.
But there is a market for a certain level of people.
Yes.
And so it's got to be a focus on who are those, what are they, how do we get them?
And small to medium is that's
Yeah.
kind of been our focus, is those smaller groups or those medium groups that go up to about 500 people. And that is again, it could be, as you witnessed last year, the Texas A&M Forestry Service, when they were here for a day. It was a small group, roughly 200, but that 200 will rotate back in and come back in years from now, we hope. They have to go on a 5-year rotation throughout the state
And a
of
lot of the
Texas.
organizations do. So
Yes. And that's what we'll see even with the ASCE as well, is they will bounce from ASU to another school, and then will likely come back here again at some point in time. They had a great time while they were here. So that again,
If we can get
speaks
them here, we
volumes.
can entertain them, right?
Absolutely, yes,
We got to get
ma'am.
them here, and we got to get them in our hotels, and we've got to focus on the marketing of San Angelo.
Yes, ma'am.
To get them here, how do we do it?
Yes,
And less
ma'am.
about sponsorships, because sponsorships don't bring hotel
Agreed.
rooms.
Agreed. Our average daily, as I mentioned earlier, our average daily rate comparisons are up, which is great. That is
hotel
demand
people,
driven,
yeah.
and we know that. That has nothing to do with inflation at all. So from that standpoint, our hoteliers are seeing an increase in their average daily rate, and their revenue per available rental has also gone up, even from 2023. So even with the lower levels of occupancy, the average daily rate being higher and the revenue per available rental being higher tells us that they're booking the rooms where they need to book those rooms and getting them at the rates that they need.
We want our hotels to be successful.
Absolutely. So just to give you an idea, I know last year there was some discussion about the tracking software that we use. Datafy has already identified just a few things for us, and it has about a 3 to 4 week lag time on it. So just to give you all a little bit of a heads up here, in 2023, there were 3.1 million trips made to the city of San Angelo, and this is outside of a 50-mile radius. So anything outside of 50 miles is where this starts, and it runs out to 2,600 miles. So, I mean, it goes a great distance. Those visitors stayed for an average of 1.9 days, which is down about 0.1% from the 2 days that they stayed the year before.
We got late checkouts, in other words.
Instead of a late checkout, they had to leave at 11. So in 2024, we've seen just so far a little over 1.1 million trips to the city of San Angelo using those same metrics. 2.2 million visitor days for an average of 1.9 days per stay. That's a little over 333,000 total unique visitors to the city of San Angelo, just in this part of the year. And again, it has about a 3 to 4 week lag. So we're seeing the end of April, 1st of May in our Datafy analytics now. And I think that will continue to grow as we go. As you all saw and probably have heard, we are the best destination for arts and culture, voted as People's Choice, which was fantastic. As to speak to Yuki's point, that is a selling point for us. We were also voted the best visitor center in Texas on the 20th anniversary of the visitor center being open. So thank you for that. With that being opened, we were able to be awarded that this year, and we're glad to have that.
It's beautifully located.
Yes, it
It's
is.
a beautiful
Yes, it is.
facility.
And I said it at the luncheon, but I think it's true that our volunteers, the 15 people that staff that place every single day, are the reason that we won that Best Visitor Center. It's a great facility, but the people inside of it that extend that hospitality are the ones that helped us garner that award.
I hear from visitors to our town a lot of positives about the volunteers in the visitor center, so I hear it a lot.
Yes, ma'am.
So you might hear it there, but to see them out in our community and to praise the visitor center personnel and their knowledge level is very encouraging.
Secondhand praise is my favorite, so thank you for that. I like hearing it from somebody that you're doing a good job, but I like hearing it from somebody else that heard it from somebody else. So that's a great
Positive.
thing. That's always a great thing. With the open and the creation of the Art and Uncommon Places art exhibits, especially the Black Tie Cowboy downtown. That has opened another venue, another avenue for us. Paintbrush Alley is always busy. So it's just that art and culture, pulling those two together, really set the city apart. And it's something that we can sell to just about anyone. With regard to our advertising, we're looking at a roughly $467,000 total marketing expense out of our budget on an annual basis. So that includes our advertising, but it also includes all of those things that we mentioned, which was going to conventions to pull conventions to us. We are relegating that to, I want to call it regional, as opposed to some of the longer distance trips that had been made in the past. I know that at times people were going to Canada or Mexico and things of that nature. That is not taking place now.
Good.
We're keeping that within Texas so that we know that our reach is primarily within Texas and the shoulder states. We don't need to go out into California to try to pull people here right now. I don't think that's necessary. But we do see a large increase in total number of international visitors, which has been big for us. And they love the hospitality.
And they love the whole Indian and cowboy thing.
Yes, they do.
That
They
is
do.
like, and they love coming through here to go to Big Bend, and they love coming through here to go to Marfa.
Yes, ma'am.
And they are always looking for cowboys and Indians.
Yes, ma'am. So with our reach in terms of our advertising, we are reaching in all of the publications that we've discussed in the past, which is Authentic Texas, Texas Highways, Texas Monthly. We will have the cover of the fall edition for Travel Host this year, and that will be the Christmas edition. So it lasts from October through December, and we will be putting that one really, really great photo that we got during the parade on the cover. And it was very inexpensive, so that was a good reach for us. And that gets us that market that we're looking for. It's the north and west primarily that we're seeing the majority of our people come from.
But the focus will be on Texas Highways and Texas Monthly,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Because that's where you're getting your bang for your buck.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. And we've changed our ad space. Instead of going for quarter-page ads, we're doing less ads, but larger ads
Smart.
with better quality advertisements.
Smart.
So we're trying
Thank you.
to utilize the money more wisely there. I could share this with you, but year-to-date ad placements, some of the examples of that, even in Texas Monthly, were the Ruffini Chapel. When they ran the Ruffini article, I got a little inside baseball on that, so I utilized that to my
Good.
advantage on that, and we put the Ruffini Chapel as the ad. And talked about the fact that that was built here with right on the front end of the article that was written on the Ruffini brothers. So that was a kind of a cool idea. Our travel host for this month is Take Time for Some Lake Time. You know, we talked about water just a little bit ago. It's actually a picture of Cole Reiner in a cowboy hat on a wakeboard behind a boat.
Fabulous.
So we didn't take it at
Great.
Nasworthy, but I got his permission to use it. I called Cole and asked him if I could use his picture. He said, absolutely, not a problem. So we're good there.
And you didn't block out his space?
No, it's covered a little bit by some cowboy hat and water, but you can tell he knows what he's doing.
Good.
So, Authentic Texas, as I said, we are using some metrics this year to track people with scanning the QR codes. Now, that does require people to take action. So you do have to take out your phone and take a snap of that QR code. But we are starting to see that Authentic Texas and Texas Monthly are leading the pack when it comes to overall clicks or traffic to the website. Now, that doesn't necessarily translate directly into a hotel sale, but with 27 in Texas Monthly, I can attribute that the majority of people who are seeing that ad are indeed clicking on it and checking it out because of high-quality ads. So that's a good thing. Texas Highways is the same way. They're pulling about 15. Authentic Texas is 14. So
You brought up Datify
Yes.
earlier in the conversation. I've had people ask, that say they've asked to have access to that information. How do people get information from Datify to use for their own recruitment or whatever they need it
what
for?
can they get with it? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So if they can reach out to us, and it's harder to do with a large group of dates. So say, for instance, if you wanted to look at a particular event in 2023, one particular event, and compare it to that event in 2024, it's pretty simple to do. But if we're looking at multiple weekends throughout a year and then comparing that to the multiple weekends through another year, it does become very time consuming. because you do have to go in through and change the filters, provide that information, and it does take a little bit of time. It's not instantaneous, but it can be done, can certainly be done.
Good.
And we're glad to do it. It's
Thank
just
you.
it is time consuming. So if someone were to ask, please understand that we do have some
Just tell them
limitations there.
what the issue is. Let
Absolutely.
them know up front,
It's going to take some time.
unless you identify a tighter timeline.
Yes.
And you can tell them that, and then they can either be happy with that, or et cetera. But
Yes.
just let them know that it is available.
It is available, absolutely. Bookings, which is always a topic, and that's part of our
Heads and
metrics.
beds.
It's part of our contracts and metrics in our contract. We're sitting roughly at 100 right now through this year for 2024. We've got a couple of really exciting ones, I would say, coming, well, potentially coming before the end of the year. Roughly a 200-person group that we're looking at trying to bring in. Again, that fits that small to medium-sized convention group. We don't have an identified space for them yet. They've not asked for one, but we are working with Sid as we need to here on the convention center. And it's worked out very well.
Good.
So overall, everything has been good. Total room nights booked is in the neighborhood of 20,000 total room nights throughout the year, which is great. 24 new sales out of the 46 that we did in the first quarter. 24 of those were new, most of them smaller. A quinceañera may bring 30 to 40 people to town, but it's a group, and it's hotel room nights, and that is something that we focus on every time we get the opportunity. If somebody calls us and says, I'm having a family reunion or a class reunion, we want to accommodate them. We want to help them. Monica's downtown Main Street retreat was phenomenal this year. And thankfully, just by happenstance, we happened to talk about it. And she said, I was about to do all this by myself. We are happy to help in any of those situations. So it's not necessarily us selling it, but our partners reaching out to us as well.
All right, but we
And I
want you
think
selling them too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We're spending the time everywhere we can. But if we've got a bird in the hand, we're going to grab it.
No, you want to utilize all the resources and groups that we have
Yes,
to
ma'am.
tie into their larger group.
Yes, ma'am. So our
And build
partnership
from that.
partnership network has been phenomenal.
Good.
So, all that to say, any questions?
Questions for Jeremy? Comments for Jeremy? Larry?
Canadian Air Force has been a big plus.
Yes.
I'm assuming it's going to continue next year, but is there any plan for a long-term agreement with them? And you might want to talk about the heads on beds.
Yes.
And what it has done for us.
So the Royal Canadian Air Force was here back in October of last year. They spent a good portion of November with us, and during that time there were 60 people that had come in to do essentially a scouting mission, just to see what the flying conditions were like, see what our airport capacities were, what type of availability we would have to work with them. So they spent a little bit of time here last year in 2023. They came back in February with 90 plus. And during that time, they spent the entire month of February here. They committed at that time that they will be back again in November because flying conditions are optimal. Our weather is great. They love the place. They love the town. They love the hospitality that they receive here in town. So those people will be here again for an additional month. Excuse me. So with 90 people essentially staying in hotel rooms through the month of February, that was a large chunk of heads and beds for the month of February. Then you combine in the stock show with that. We did a Datafy, just a quick poll of it, but there were roughly 72,000 people who hit the grounds during stock show. Now, that's, again, 50 miles and out. So we don't know whether all those people stayed in hotel rooms, but I can tell you, if you look at the numbers, a good portion of those people stayed in hotel rooms during that time. So that's a great thing for us to see. But they have committed that they will be back in November, Larry, and our goal is to set that up to be a long-term relationship. We don't want to let that go. That has helped our airport. Our airport staff has been phenomenal. Jeremy and his team have been outstanding. That was one thing that I kept hearing from all of the pilots was just, you have no idea how easy it is to fly in and out of here because they are willing to do whatever is necessary to give us what we want. So that, again, speaks volumes.
Do you know if they've made any capital investments that also is an encouragement for them to keep returning?
So far, I have not offered any incentives or any dollars toward them. Now, we have gotten them some government rates for hotels, which has been helpful. This past year, they did an RFP, but they're going to skip by the RFP and just go to us to establish this for themselves. They used a third-party planner. We tried to advise them against it, but that was where they were. It was just part of the governmental bureaucracy that they had. They've gone past that now, and we've gotten the approval to just move forward as a team in this instead of having that third-party planner. But we have not offered any incentives ourselves. Now, capital improvement from the Royal Canadian Air Force, why not? We can ask. I say we should.
If they're gonna keep coming back, let's make them the home out there and,
Sounds good to
meet their
me.
needs.
Offset by what? So you look at it and you say, if they make some capital improvement, what is the offset that they want from us? Because it's usually not all free.
No, nothing's free, right?
Yeah, so give and take.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
further
you.
questions?
Anything else?
Comments for Jeremy? Okay,
Folks, thank you.
very much. Downtown San Angelo, you're up next.
Hello, good morning, almost afternoon. So downtown San Angelo is actually celebrating our 20th anniversary this October, 20 years that we've been in existence. So much has been accomplished since the organization started. I've always heard Dell, our past director, recount memories of downtown when it was quiet, not a whole lot of activity spurring. I've heard others mention this as well. But today it is bustling. We have a really great business mix, and we're actually currently working on updating our business inventory. And so far, from what we've counted, we had 248 businesses, and out of that, 47% are services. But then next in line is the shopping and retail, and then we have the restaurants and bars. And then right after that is amusement. So locations like the Fort and the Performing Arts Center, Think in the Box. And so this is really great for our downtown in terms of thinking about future of living, what that would look like. We have the Roosevelt Hotel coming soon. Hopefully we'll see that in the beginning of 2025. But as far as having this business mix, that means that we have all the amenities and services available to bring in living, for the living to be here. There's the hospital, we have a grocery store. We could also account, Walgreens, the simple convenience stores as well for living. So that's already set and in place. Next is inviting the developers to come and take a look at our properties, take advantage of the historic properties and the historic tax credits that go along with that as well. These last few weeks, downtown San Angelo hosted the Texas Main Street Retreat. That was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun, and it was wonderful to hear all the compliments from the attendees. We had a total of 75 attendees attend this Main Street Retreat, and we met at different locations, so I'm thankful for the venues and the lunch and dinner sponsors that we had. We met at Fort Concho, the Cactus Hotel, and the library. So we switched out venues each day so that the attendees could really get to know our downtown. They were very, very impressed by our art scene. So kudos to Art and Uncommon Places for the work that they've put in. The electrified murals were awesome. Also, even the trolley, we took the ride around the Cultural Arts District, and we rode around through the museum and the Railway Museum, and we were able to give this tour and highlight a lot of our great assets that we have in downtown, like the Concho River and the few that I just named. So we have a really great area in our community, and we're happy to see that growth. As far as stays, we did get with the DMO, and a lot of 3 locations in our downtown where we would be able to accommodate our attendees. And so we had the Angoria Hotel, the Clarion Hotel, and the Concho Pearl make arrangements for our attendees. And at the end of the retreat, we submitted a paper survey for economic impact, and there was $18,000 spent in lodging, $3,000 spent on outside food and drink, and then $4,000 spent on shopping. So that was really great that we were able to bring that impact to our downtown through this retreat.
that $3,000 is a minimal number because in fact, the restaurant / picked up the cost of the meals. So if you calculated the cost of the meals that were given free to that event, that number would be much higher.
Oh, absolutely. That does not include the partial sponsorships and the amounts paid out from any lunches or dinners as well. This is just from the 43 respondents. I mentioned there was 75 attendees, but only 43 actually responded. So this is just a bit of a number to give us a bit of an idea of the impact brought here, but it very well was much, much more than that, for sure, Mayor. And as far as our events go, I've just came up here and gave our presentation at City Council, our biannual presentation. So we've already heard about Brews, Use, and Barbecue. We also have our Star Spangled Banner concert and fireworks show coming up on July 3rd. So we're happy to have this display for the community. The fireworks show will be bigger and better than ever. And we do have exclusive use of the fireworks through VIP tables as well as our cabanas. In the back of the river stage. It's something new for us, and we'll have local performances. Our stroll continues on with 2 more strolls left for the year, and then we'll host a mini Miss Wool pageant in November. Really looking forward to that, and we'll start pushing those materials a little bit harder soon to get the word out about this new event for us. This is a family-friendly event, so we're happy to plug that in to our plans for this year. And then kind of similar to last year, we teamed up with Angelo State University to host Rambunctious Week. This purpose was to be a part of Rambunctious Week to bring students off campus to downtown to get familiar with our downtown. And so we're doing the same thing with Goodfellow Air Force Base this year in October. We'll be a part of their Senior Leadership Summit, and we will take the command team around for a scavenger hunt tour. And again, this is to bring them to our downtown and get them familiarized with all that we have to offer. And with the new streetscape in place, the walkability, the quality of life is just really boosted in our downtown because it's so beautiful. And that was one of the compliments from the Main Street Retreat attendees, as well as how beautiful our downtown is and how clean it was. So the city's work does not go unnoticed as far as the cleanup crew coming out and taking care of the landscaping and picking up any litter that's around our downtown. We're thankful for that. Future plans as well as far as design goes. We are having conversations. Our promotions and design committee are talking about, we've had historic banners, the red historic banners in place, but those have not withstood the testament of time. So we're looking into bringing new banners in place. And so we're in our initial steps. We'll be communicating with the Design and Historic Review Commission and seeing where we might propose to place these banners and what they would look like. I think we're going to have a focus on the art scene, since that is something that is highly visible to people that come and visit downtown. And then, of course, our marketing. We have our historic magazine, our website, and our social media where we present information and promotions. I think our organization, to the public's eye, has gone a little under the radar, but we do want to start putting ourselves out there and letting it be known that we are a part of this community and we have so much support, like the DMO and Art and Common Places and the Performing Arts Center, all the support that we've ever had for any events that we do. We're very thankful. And also, of course, to the City of San Angelo Development Corporation and Texas Bank for helping us with the Main Street Retreat. But we'll continue to do what we do, and I'll leave it at that. Do y'all have any questions?
Well, I just want to make sure the public's aware that they talk a lot about the buildings, particularly the Townhouse Hotel on the corner of Chadburn and Concho, and don't understand why we can't get them developed. And I want the public to understand we have multiple people who come to our city and really want to develop those buildings. It is not due to a lack of interest. This past November, we had 3 developers in town who tried to get access and under contract for the Townhouse Hotel, Bogart Towers, Trimble Bacher, and another building. And based off of the price that people put on their buildings, they didn't make financial sense for a developer to develop it, even with tax credits. So you still have to be reasonable in terms of the price ask.
You're absolutely right. That's the big question that we get. Why hasn't anybody done anything with this building? Why aren't you doing anything with this building? Well, it is out of our hands. We are not the property owners at the end of the day. So it does come to that negotiation between the property owner and the developer. And they're right that there's a really, really high price tag on some of these properties to where it's not feasible for the developer. It doesn't make sense to them to come in and purchase this property on top of having to make the updates that they need to operate a business and still generate a steady revenue for themselves.
The reason we were getting the Roosevelt Hotel done was we were able to secure that building at a very reasonable price 10 years ago. And because we were able to get it at a reasonable price, they were able to develop it as a project. So their entry into the building and the cost with that was low compared to what other people are asking for. And so downtown San Angelo was very instrumental in acquiring that building, which is now going to turn into what will be a
The Roosevelt
$12 million
Lofts.
asset in downtown, early 2025.
Oh, yes, we're happy to see that, and we are pretty confident that that's going to come to fruition. I know it's been some time, but there's signage out there. They're getting to it little by little, but that's just kind of how construction
It's not
goes.
signage, it's work. If you drive by it, there's a lot of work being done on it. It's not signage, it's work.
Yes, signage that they are working on it, yes. But I know that will come to us pretty soon. It's just, waiting and seeing what
It takes a
happens, but it
while.
will be here. Yeah, anything like that takes time. Tiers, actually, I'll mention that. We are in communications with the planning department. We actually had a conversation about yard signage to help market the Tiers program. What I do want to do, this is on my radar, is pick up the phone and make phone calls to past Tiers recipients to gauge how they originally heard about the Tiers program so that we aren't spending money where it's not necessary. We want to make sure that it is impactful, especially reaching the north side of town. We have seen a few more projects popping up, so that's great. It's kind of like once one neighbor sees that they're updating their property, then they'll do the same, and that's the purpose of the Tiers program. So we'll continue looking at that and assessing what the marketing will look like to push further than website and social media. We really want to get some visuals out there, as well as word of mouth is always the best thing as well, spreading the word about the Tiers program.
Any questions for Monica?
Mayor?
Yes.
Just a comment. I'm green, but I'm not heard.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I want to thank you for, you mentioned you gathered some data on folks you had in town, that you were able to assess economic impact of their particular event that they were here for. Thank you for doing that. That to me is very helpful data, not only for us, but for others. And I would encourage others to follow y'all's example and gather that kind of data when they bring an event to town, just so that they can share that with a lot of people. So thank you for doing that. I
Yes, sir.
appreciate that.
You're
Thanks.
welcome. Thank you.
Yes, Tom?
So if we have a piece of property in town and it's vacant and it's not being used and other people have taken it as just a investment or somewhere to sit there, I mean, are there things we need, you can't rent a hangar at the airport without having an airplane in it and without doing business and moving things forward. I think that's an obstacle to where that would definitely be taxable revenue. The city could use all of that, and I'm particularly talking about the building right across from Trimble Becher. If there's things we need to do to encourage them to move forward, but I'm certainly not in favor of somebody sitting there and just dragging it out. If I remember right, it actually came to us, and who's the landowner now?
Of the Townhouse Hotel.
Yeah,
It's a gentleman out of Orange, Texas, Kerm Sahib.
Right.
Yes.
and so it's kind of disheartening for something to sit there and us not to move forward with it. That's things that benefit the city, downtown, things we need to move forward, so. if we-
We've looked at several things, Tom, along the way to try to figure out how to force the hand of a
Right.
property owner in terms of development. The question comes back to picking winners and losers and putting let's say, higher taxes on it or other issues that are not applied across the board and the legality of that.
Right.
It's been a difficult thing to move forward on, although we've had multiple conversations on how to try to force the hand, and it really gets back to private property rights and what you can or cannot do. And the only other option that you have is the fire marshal, and the fire marshal making sure that that property is kept up to safety standards. Minimum standards, and if not, forcing the hand of that, either additional investment on that and/or other things. But it's been a big challenge, and we, like I said, we had in excess of $1 million offered for the Townhouse Hotel, $1.5 million was offered. He bought that building for $125,000 and won't accept $1.5 million offer. So those are the challenges and the issue. It's not about desire and people wanting to come to our town and buy these buildings and redo them. They just can't get their hands on the building, even when the purchase price is dynamically smaller than the offer price. And that's the frustrating part.
Well, what I think you told us here is there's a lot of headwinds involved with moving this forward, but we would love to see our town grow at a faster pace, especially downtown, Mike. And we're with you 100%. We appreciate what you do. We hate to see the obstacles you get from somebody not within our community that's holding things up.
Well, I know Corsicana has like a vacant city ordinance, and there were conversations during the Main Street retreat because the retreat was a part of new manager training and training for the Main Street program. So we're going to continue to research that, but also kind of see how that goes for them, because who's to say if it's successful for them or
Well,
not.
what were they proposing?
Raising the property taxes each year in increments.
Yeah.
And so again, it's looking at that and then seeing how that's actually playing out for them. And this is new for them. So we're just going to continue to keep an eye on that and see what happens there for the other cities.
And our biggest challenge then is you look at, a couple of the things that determine appraised value is comparable. And we don't have comp in the downtown area that's worth anything. Now, when the Roosevelt Hotel gets done, then all of a sudden you're going to have a better comp that you could somewhat use to drive that conversation. But until you have a comp, it's pretty hard. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
San Angelo Museum of Fine Arts. Thank you all for being patient out there, but getting this information is really important to us. And why don't you start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background, because you are new to San Angelo and new to the Museum of Fine Arts.
My pleasure. Can you hear me? For sure.
Speak more into the microphone.
Quite short.
There's
Is that better? Okay. Hello. Good morning. Thanks for having me here. I am Josefa González Mariscal. I'm the new director of the San Angelo Museum of Fine Arts. I have worked all my life in the culture sector. I've worked in Mexico and the U.S. I'm an American and immigrant. I have dual citizenship. I am an art historian. I am a certified fine arts appraiser. I have a master's in public service and administration and nonprofit management. I was the executive director of the National Hispanic Cultural Center in Albuquerque. I was a deputy director of the Bullock, Texas State History Museum. I've been a culture attaché for the Mexican Consul in Houston, and those just are a few of the things that I have done in my life. I am very happy to be here. I'm very happy to work with the community and little by little become integrated in the San Angelo community. Up to now, I have received a very warm welcome, and I thank all of you for it. The community has really been fantastic in terms of welcoming me. I am starting my tenure and learning about the city and learning about the museum after the museum having had a very long directorship with Howard Taylor, who we cannot thank him enough for all what he did for the city by helping materialize the museum. As you know, the museum was closed for a short period of time last year due to damage to the roof and the construction of the new roof. So in spite of the museum having been closed for a while, the museum had in-person visitors up to close to 39,000 visitors, which is a fantastic number. 4,000 were out of town and about 200 were international visitors. Though I must say that those numbers are not entirely accurate, because when we have events and we have visitors that come into the city for a wedding, a quinceañera, we do not know how many of the guests are foreign or out of town. But so this is the numbers that I'm giving you are for visitors to exhibitions and programs. So there's a greater variety of attendees once you factor in visitors that are coming into the city for social purposes or business purposes. And I want to let you know that we have revamped our events and rentals policies. We are trying to offer more spaces for the community to use within the museum. We have expanded that, and I think that's important for attracting more visitors to the city and for civic engagement. We are making absolutely every space in the museum rentable and available for the public to use, nonprofits, government, for social engagements, for educational purposes. So we have revamped that, which we hope will really help the museum and the community. We continue to engage with other institutions. As you know, the SANFA is the manager for the cultural district. I am very new to this cultural district. I'm learning of what the priorities for the city are and what the priorities for the district entities that are in it are. So I hope to start moving forward in that more speedily. The past few weeks that I've been here, I've been more familiarizing me with what the needs of the museum are, and now I'm expanding to other areas. You also might know that we manage the Star Base program, which is a great asset to the community through the base, and that is very important. And also, we manage Caseta, the Center for Advancement and Study of Early Texas Art. This weekend, I'm going to be in Houston attending the symposium, the Caseta Symposium, and seeing how else we can continue to work with them. That is a very important partnership because it is an institution that preserves a lot of the history of Texas art. We have some of their archives we have other archives with us, and there are more artist archives that are coming this summer to us that are casetas, but that we manage and we host. So that's an important aspect of keeping San Angelo not only vibrant in its current, with its current artists and art community, but also in the preservation of the historic aspect of art in the state. So that's why the association with Caseta is quite important for us. We're also in a partnership that was signed last year with Fort Concho and the city for the development of the space that is in the Chase building for storage facility, a storage facility that will also in the future will house conservation labs so that the cultural assets that are in West Texas have a place to be preserved. And that is of prime importance. It's not only what we're doing today, but how we preserve our past and what we're doing for the future generations. We continue to have exhibitions, and the exhibitions are trying to be broad, to be inclusive for diverse members of the community, for diverse histories. An upcoming one is the Will Wilson exhibit, which is a photographic exhibit that contrasts Native American photographer today with the works of another Native, with an Anglo photographer depicting Native Americans in the past. So those kind of exhibitions open the community to different interpretation, different aspects, different points of view. It helps children of different identities find places where they can see themselves represented, which is very important. Currently, we're running our camps to capacity. We do camps for children, as you know. They're beloved by the children that come, the parents, and that is a great opportunity for children to be immersed in the arts. We to continue to have what were called family days. Currently are clay days, but we might go back to family days. Those are days where families can come and interact with other families, with the educators, to experience art themselves and do it as a family. Many studies have proven that children who attend museums with their families become long members of museum attendees. It's different than those that just attend with the school. Attending with the school is fabulous, and we support that, and we have school groups that come all the time. But that connection that involves the family goes beyond the just school attendance. And that's why for us it's very important to have days like our Thursdays where families in the afternoon can just drop off with their kids and engage in doing art. And we will continue to do those. We have kept our signature ceramics week, which is in collaboration with ASU, with a symposium, exhibition. Just in our opening, we had more than 500 people attend. It's an opportunity to bring ceramics from all over the nation and beyond. We changed the title of the competition to make it North American, because we are inviting artists from Canada, Mexico, and the United States. So now we are calling it the North American Ceramic Competition, since we had representatives from these three countries. The En Plein Air, which is what I call it a citywide extravaganza of en plein air painting, has been modified. It was modified before my arrival. I'm just implementing it to be spread out throughout the year, so it is not just one at the end in October. This year it has started, and we have guest artists in residency for 3 weeks at local ranches, painting our ranches. We are having other artists coming in September and doing the same, staying with us at Texas Ranches for 3 weeks and painting more. And then it will all be presented, all what they did in the fall, in October. So we're expanding what that program was, instead of just concentrated to a few days, to throughout the year. The idea is to alternate 1 year of a big competition like in the past and 1 year of residency. So it's our first year doing it, and it's going well. We have an artist from Florida who was surprised at what real life in a ranch is. And that is good, because it's expanding what we do. It's letting other states know what we're doing. So it has been very, very interesting working with them. I want to thank you all for the support you give the museum through the many things that the city does for us. And the hotel occupancy tax is impactful. We use it for marketing. We use it for all this programming that we do, educational, bringing exhibitions. And we do social media. We do print marketing. We send invitations. We print them. We send them out. We invite the community. We are adjusting some of our policies. Since the pandemic, the museum had not charged admission, because we're trying to get people back into the habit of going back to museums. But as we know throughout many studies, although we want to be accessible, we do need to go back into charging some admission. So that has been approved, and we're going to implement it soon. But that will also allow us to collect more data as to who is coming specifically to the museum. Because if we do it now in a way that we're inputting it into a program as to who is coming, what they're coming from, everything. It'll be easier for us to collect data that is useful for all of you to use. So that is one of the things that we're doing. We're also expanding our membership program so that there's more value in acquiring a membership, and we're trying to call onto the community, the business community, to acquire corporate memberships for their employees to attend, to support us. So we're revamping many of our policies as we move forward with new leadership. Do you have any questions for me?
or comments? Well, go right ahead, Lucy.
I just wanted to tell you welcome. And thank you so much for all your hard work that you're beginning.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank
It's
you.
hard to follow someone who's been here for decades, but I always think change is good, and your leadership and your background, I think, will help change happen and new things come to the table. So thank you, and hope you enjoy your experience here in San Angelo, Texas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Water Lily, where's my sign?
I have updates. So the previous year, we were allocated $25,000. That first year, we spent about $8,000 to do some signage, wayfinding signage to lead folks to the park itself. And then we began working on a concept for the entrance sign to Civic League Park. So this year, we finalized those concept, and I do need to show you all probably in the Friday packet memo. We finalized that concept. We work on the design for that entrance. It has stone columns and a wooden sign. It's similar to the one at the Bosque, but it's not exactly the same thing. It's similar. It also includes some flat work, some paved stones as you come into the park, handicap ramp, accessibility, and it's a new entrance. You'll know that you're at the entrance of the park. We were held up trying to find the right stone to match what's there. It's sort of a brown conglomerate stone. It took a while for us to find that. We found a source, and we're confident we can comfortably do the project with the funds that are remaining this fiscal year. So that project, yes, that project will be done this fiscal year. I see allocation of $25,000 for next year. I have a recommendation that shift over to wayfinding for signage along the downtown core section of the river, connecting folks along the river to attractions along the river and to both sides of the river. We will be working with Angelo State University this fall to work up the concept for that wayfinding signage, and then we'll need some funds to work up the design and begin to implement that project. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you. Questions?
Just a real quick comment. We've been talking about wayfinding for 20 years. I'm glad we've got to the spot where we can do that. So from your recommendation, I would say I support that.
Thank you. We will now do art and uncommon places.
Morning,
Good
Mayor
morning.
Gunter and City Council. My name is Dr. Gigi Perez Langley. My partner is Julie Raymond. I'm here on behalf of Art and Uncommon Places. Thank
The
you.
microphone so we talk right into it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity this morning. Art and Uncommon Places has had an amazing 2 years with the help of the hotel occupancy tax funds from the City of San Angelo and the partnerships with other entities within the city. Our support stretches from the city's Parks and Rec to street and bridge departments, Downtown San Angelo, Discover San Angelo, Keep San Angelo Beautiful, San Angelo Performing Arts Center, San Angelo Museum of Fine Arts, Paintbrush Alley Market Days, SAISD, and private donors who all see the value in what public art can do for a community. Our downtown open-air museums, Pop Art and Paintbrush Alley, are frequently booked for private and public events. In 2003, there were 8 events that brought in over 15,000 people. In 2024, so far, we've seen a skate competition and 1 Paintbrush Alley Market Days, with another planned for October. We thank the organizers of Paintbrush Alley Market Days, for continuing to bring exposure to these open-air museums in San Angelo. The online presence, because of this, has become wide open. We've seen things in travel blogs with My Curly Adventure, Downtown Texas, and the Market Days was actually nominated for a travel award by the DMO in 2023. With the Hot Fund money that we got in 2023, we completed the Electrified Murals project, which brought 10 new murals to the city with augmented reality. We were proud to be one of the first in the nation to have an augmented reality mural tour. Our murals are augmented using the app called iJack, and the statistics show that we've had over 3,500 views. We placed an ad in the Historic Downtown Museum magazine in order to explain the project, show how to use the project, and also just bring it to the attention of some of the surrounding communities that the distribution for the magazine is in. So far in 2024, we've had a very big and ambitious year so far, and we're just so excited. We've installed a mosaic mural of a mermaid. She's front and back her name is Red A, at the Red Arroyo Art Trail. In March, we took on an ambitious new project called the Black Tie Cowboy in downtown San Angelo. Art in Common Places was able to contribute over 50 pieces of art to a 3-block section of Chadbourn. Many of the pieces were made in the studio over time with volunteers, the W3 Work Camp, and then donated to the city. The installation includes historic photos, sculptures, seating, paintings, and mosaics, as well as some storefronts getting painted to help increase the look of downtown. Yes, ma'am, increase the look of downtown. With the support from the city, we were able to complete this project in a very, very short time and host a ribbon cutting and opening in May. So from March to May, we were able to complete this project, and it brought vibrancy through the streets that day. We had our opening on May 7th on the San Angelo Gives Day, and I can tell you, based on the statistics on the website, we have had over 200 hits between 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock during the opening of that event. As we all know, San Angelo Gives is a huge day for many entities in San Angelo, so to have that kind of QR clicks during just that 2-hour period is really kind of remarkable. So thank you to the public and everybody in the city for contributing to that. Some of our future projects include a private donation to fund the art at the Altex irrigation splash pads. For Unidad, 6 benches and a mosaic mural are in production. After the completion of that first splash pad, we'll begin working on art for the Kirby Park. We have a kids project that's called Impressions of San Angelo, a seek and find for family fun. And this is a rubbing project where there will be 26 placards placed on staple places in the community that people can go and do a rubbing of, and it's aimed towards children, so we're hoping to partner with SAISD in the distribution of that and to get that out to some of the families in town, because after all, you have to have somebody take the kid to those places in order to be able to do that. Lastly, when we spoke last, we were seeking funding from a private grant or from a grant to move forward with the airport beautification project, and we were not granted that. So we would like to continue moving forward with that project, and the contributions to the 24-25 hotel occupancy tax funds would be beneficial to jumpstart that project for us. We hope to see all of our social media presence numbers grow and continue updating our website to include the Black Tie Cowboy Project. If you haven't gone on and looked at that lately, we've done a ton of work to make sure that everybody knows the history behind some of the pictures, the story behind some of the sculptures, and just some of the things that Art in Common Places is really proud to bring to the city. So, and then we also included the electrified murals on that. So it's an easier way for people to be able to get on and just see how to get to the murals and how to use them with the QR codes on the website. So it's easier access. We are working with our social media team to enhance our online presence. And as more people become aware of what we offer our visitors and community, the more we can count on our community to take pride in the city's art scene and share that with their visitors who come to town. Art and Common Places hopes to continue branding San Angelo as a visual arts capital of Texas. And with the help of the city hot funds, we've been able to do an incredible job in the last 2 years, if I could say so. So thank you so much. Do I have any questions?
Well, I know I'm speaking for Julie. She's in New York this week, and they have an ask to go from $25,000 to $50,000 a year so that they can continue doing all of these art projects that they're doing, which they have raised funds to do that with. The airport is a project that we've seen the artwork presented. They didn't get the grant, so they need money to help do that. But I look at the investment in Black Tie Cowboy, and all the artwork in the downtown area was worth about $1 million worth of art.
Yes, ma'am.
And that doesn't include the art done in other locations or the art that you're getting ready to present. So the ask is to go from $25,000 to $50,000 in the new budget.
Yes, ma'am.
Questions, comments? Thank you very much. Good
Thank you.
job. Railway Museum, she left. Fort Concho. Turn around, Bob.
Morning, Mayor, Council. Fort Concho has been the gracious and grateful recipient of hot money for more years than I can remember, and I'm pleased to tell you that it remains a worthy investment. We've had a good year, fiscal and calendar. Calendar 2023, we saw visitors from 49 states. We missed West Virginia, sorry. 4 territories, 260 Texas communities, and 31 foreign countries. You've probably heard from some other organizations about the partnerships that we have with the other cultural agencies, so we're trying to do our part for the greater glory of tourism. Our $50,000 basically goes into the general operations funds of the fort and helps us do all the things we do all year long. We're open 361 days a year. We rarely close. This is unusual for a cultural nonprofit. Many close on Monday, some close on Tuesday, some don't open till 10. We're here every day. And some days we draw lots of people and some days we don't, but throughout the year we serve at or near 60,000 people. And that's not shabby given where we are in West Texas. We've had a good year. We have great events upcoming. We cordially invite you to our Western Art Show opening on Thursday, 27 June at 5:30. And I stand ready to take any questions you may have on what we do, what we will do, or what we should do.
When are those 2 new buildings opening?
I knew someone would ask that question. We're in the home last stretch. We're at the 99.5 percentile. In plain English, I'm hoping next month. We are at the point where what is necessary to be done are tiny, invisible, but has to be done. Electronic, security, some odds and ends. It's been a long slog, but a good one. And these 4 buildings will create a research library center open entirely to the public that will be second to none in our territory. So we're very much looking forward to it. It's been suggested that I send you a update, so as soon as I have another meeting with the contractor, we'll get you a Friday memo very shortly.
Good.
Waited 23 years for this. It's been worth the wait.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for Bob? Thank you. Civic events. Sid, you're on.
Mayor, we do have, this is one of the funds the final fund that we go through. Do you want to go through his budget at the same time, or?
It's fine with me if it's fine with,
It's fine with me.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna get you out of here real soon.
We're getting educated today. This is good.
Okay,
This is a good day.
The Civic Events Fund, of course, their revenue is comprised of hotel occupancy tax as well as venue income, Other here includes venue revenues, concessions, advertising rights, and interest, and the increase is due to an increase in Coliseum revenue and interest, which is offset by a decrease for convention center revenue. And on the expenditure side, personnel is up there slightly. Again, O&M is up due to increases for insurance, IT, and indirect costs. And the facility use fee revenue, of course, is being restricted to fund balance for future capital and maintenance needs.
Just for clarification, the decrease in the convention center revenue is due to our dinnerware replacement that we do not use currently. We haven't been using it for several years, so we decided to give you all a better budget feel for, for the convention center.
Well, weren't you closed for a certain amount of months as well?
Yes, ma'am, but this has been the same since pre-COVID, obviously.
Questions concerning the budget? Tom?
Sid, we had a talk 2 weeks ago, sat in your office a little bit and talked about, and I believe it's in your other column, talking about revenue.
Yes, sir.
And I strongly suggest, and part of that revenue is commissions, advertising, what we have in certain areas. I would, as I did that day, I'd encourage you to have a business review with the people that are in charge of helping us generate that revenue and seeing if there's other steps we can do to generate more. I mean, it's anything to take the burden off of the expansion out of the general fund or hot tax and save you more money there. But I think there's a lot of things that you brought up to me that were discussed that were areas that we could go and look at different ways with signage and marketing and things and working with McLaughlin to try to expand upon what we got. I encourage you, and I wanted to make that statement here in front of everybody to know
Well,
that.
let's hear about them.
So we were talking about signage on, what we get at revenues in certain areas. And is there a limit to what we have and can we expand upon that? Talking about signage in the Coliseum, signage here, where can we go with that and grow it some more? And not just keep it to what we have limited. I mean, when we sit there, and I gave them a perfect example. Through my eyes, when I worked at a previous job, I thought I had gone as far as I can go. It took somebody new to come in and look and say, here's further steps you can go. And it's just like what you just said with talking about change at the museum. A different set of eyes, things to look at may be able to suggest you different opportunities to chase. And they brought that up, and they're like, you know what, I think there's more revenue that we can find in certain areas. And I certainly look at the River Stage as one of those opportunities.
River Stage is huge.
Yeah, I mean, so
Huge.
let's go down the path of sit down with the people and talk about what can we do to grow it. I mean, I think that's important. Signage is one of the hardest things to sell. Sponsorships, you're basically getting the name out, but try to push the horizon on that and see what you can get.
Yes, sir. Currently, we're stagnant, like you're saying, in that area. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll be able to meet with our advertising company, McLaughlin, and be able to have some type of discussion so we can, get a little bit more positive with our working environment with him.
All right, so any other ideas, Tom, that you had thrown out that you think would open
We
doors
had to sit
and
down
windows?
on that one, but just sell more, rent more.
One door at a time, one window at a time.
That's it.
Meanwhile, the landscaping is looking much better. The facility looks much better with the landscaping.
Definitely I do want to thank Roger, Mario, and their crew. They've been taking care of us so much. I mean, obviously, we're short-staffed on being able to do things like that outside, but they know all the terminology and everything to make sure that project goes very well. And I just want to make sure I give them kudos for all the hard work that they do for us.
And I'm a big believer that we are undersized and under capability in terms of what this facility can be. We need to push harder on what we need to get more conventions here. We've consistently here, we don't have enough breakout space. And we're not going to get more groups here, more conventions here, if we don't have a facility that works for that. So we've got to have our eyes on what do we need to look like. We need to push the button on what does this convention center need to become, instead of just making the excuses that, well, we don't have breakout rooms, so we can't get this or we can't get that. We want more. So what does more need to happen to get the more that we need. And this facility has been this size, we got a lot of land out there. It's empty a lot. We got a lot of land around this facility, and we need to utilize the land and the opportunity that probably exists, but we got to have a plan to do it, and we need to keep pushing the button to expand this convention center. It's called a convention center for a reason, but we need to make sure it's being utilized most often as a convention center, not a wedding venue. It's great to do the wedding venue, the quinceañeras, et cetera, but it's called a convention center. Where are the conventions? What is it going to take? What do we need to do? What's it going to cost? We need to be able to market this city and our convention center, and you can only do that if you have something to sell.
I agree. I definitely agree. That has been in discussions lately with city management as well. Just trying to bring more awareness in that area. I'm hoping to go visit some of the other convention centers that are neighboring us and get a feel for those conventions and everything that they're doing, and see how we can bring some more conventions to our convention center.
You got to accommodate.
Definitely need to accommodate, and we need more breakout space. There's just a lot of different factors that are going on for us, but we'll definitely have a meeting to discuss that very shortly.
Yeah, we talked about hotel motel tax. We need hotel motel tax. Our hotels need greater occupancy, and this facility has to be a driver of that. And if this facility isn't driving it, we got to get a facility that is driving it. Okay.
Well.
Good. All right. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, Tommy.
We talked about that during the CIP, that it was my suggestion. I think council agreed with this. We've got several venues in town that we have, we have already invested in, this facility being one, another one in the north part of town. We have some other opportunities, I think. So my point of bringing that up again, we talked about it in the CIP, because I think I asked our finance staff if they had some kind of software that could help us analyze where our money would be best invested to help us get the greatest return on that. So I'm hoping they're still working on that and will be able to bring back to us, To your point earlier, Mayor, I think the River Stage should be included in that. I think Convention Center, our Coliseum out north of town. We've got some opportunities in the west side of town, as crazy as it sounds, perhaps to the group. Larry and I have been pushing Twin Mountain to go all the way through. There is economic activity out there to be generated by what would happen around that. So I think that's something we ought to look at as well. So again, I throw all that out there. I hope finance staff is working on something to bring back to us and say, here is where your money is best invested, because it will provide the greatest return. What's that going to be? I don't know. Maybe it's the River Stage. Maybe it's the Convention Center. I don't know what it is. So,
I don't know if Twin Mountain Drive is going to be dealing with these kinds of issues, hotel motel tax, but what you do have out west that is terribly underutilized and has to have a focus on it, we have a master plan done to do that, is Lake Nasworthy.
well, and again, to my point, even bringing that up, we've got some opportunities, but we don't know where we're talking about big dollars here. If we're talking about Convention Center, we're not talking about $1 million. We're talking about millions of dollars. If we're talking about Coliseum, we're talking about millions of dollars. So we need to know where, as a city with limited resources, where do we invest our money to get the best return for that? So again, if that takes more than what finance staff has, then maybe that's something we need to work with finance staff to help them get the tools they need to make that. And I'm not really preaching at you, Sid. I am ranting and raving in general. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so, thank you, Tommy. So
And Tom, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to respond to Tommy's request to finance staff quickly, if I may. We did get with our consultants, Zach Tax, after that last meeting where we had a CIP discussion. We didn't know if there would be a cost associated with that analysis, and it turns out that there is, and it can cost up to $45,000 just to look at the impact of the Coliseum. But we could also ask them to compare different venues as well. Like I said, though, it only takes money. So if that's something that council would like us to bring back as a future agenda item, we'd be happy to do that.
I would be supportive of that as one council member. I'm not speaking for anybody else, but I would be supportive of that.
Tom?
Yeah, I think we had a discussion, we talked about, it'd be great to kind of see what that would look like before we commit ourselves to go down that path.
What's the dollar amount, and what would be
The dollar
inclusive
amount and what
of?
we see, what comes in. I think that was a big
And
discussion.
we need to do a lot of research ourselves before we get to that, because we've got to go see what other cities are doing, what does it look like, et cetera. So there needs to be a lot of research done to bring to the table before they can effectively do their work. And we effectively know the cost.
We could get an estimate from Zach Tax to see what it would cost to compare the Coliseum and the Convention Center. We would just need some direction on which facilities you want to look at more closely, so.
Okay. All right, Sid,
I
we've
can
interrupted
provide
you
the
6
direction.
times, so now you're on. So you want to talk about your hot tax money?
Oh, hot tax money.
Yeah.
Of course, we appreciate the amounts that we actually get for hot tax. Obviously, it does help keep the lights on over here for civic events and for all of our venues. We've been at the same amount for the past year since you all went flat for that. And like I said, it's definitely helpful for our situations and just making sure that we can stay working and providing for our community.
Questions for Sid? Comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sports complex.
Just a quick update. Last year, we hosted 15 tournaments at the sports complex. About half of those were ones that we hosted, and the other half were ones that we call rentals. Others hosted it, and we just rented the facility. We've had about 6 tournaments to date this year. It'll pick up in the later this summer and the fall. Of course, we had a turnover in leadership and recreation, so we weren't really in a position to be proactive in seeking new tournaments. The new leadership has already started doing that. We do want to revisit fees for rentals. They haven't changed in quite a while, so we'll probably package that as part of the upcoming budget, the ongoing budget process. And so those are our updates.
Okay. Questions for Carl? Yes, Tom?
Carl, there's brought up some questions about, we just have natural grass. We're looking at a turf.
Yes, we have a hybridized Bermuda grass. As far as
Right. Over the long term, if we move to a turf, that would take away a lot of the concerns about, we've had cancellations because of weather. Drainage, whole thing. And it's not a thing we can do now. It's not a 24 solve, but I would say going in the future, all of us would get a lot fewer calls if we looked at having maybe a facility that was more weather compliant or, was stronger to maintain adverse weather, because we get a little bit of a storm and we're done. And then people cancel and we lose rooms. So I would definitely say a look at what it would cost to turf those fields in the future and work on the drainage.
we can revisit that. It's got pluses, it has pluses and minuses.
And just so you know, we've researched that in the past for y'all and brought those numbers to you. The number is huge.
It's bigger than
So
you think.
just be warned, and at the time, the reason they decided against it is because the math just did not work. But we
It
can get
sounds
you.
good when you say it.
We can get you a number again for the cost.
So just off the start, was it $1 million?
Oh, no.
I don't know if Roger's here.
Our
but-
expert is here. He can answer.
Do you remember, Roger, what that number was per field? It was huge.
Did it?
Hi, Roger.
Hello.
Thought you were going to get out of here free.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was waiting on the side. So the last time I looked was when Councilman Lane Carter had asked, and I'd done a memo for council on it. At that time, it was probably running between $12 and $15 a square foot for the installation of a turf, artificial turf. Now that has gone up to probably 18 to 25, depending on the situation. Each one of those infills probably runs around 20 to 30,000 square feet. Each one of the outfields is a little over 76,000 square feet. So if you do the math just on the outfield alone, 76,000 times 20, you're looking at 1.4 million for that. The infill would probably be somewhere around, I'm not for sure, but it's monies that, again, it takes money to do those types of things. The other downside, so the upside is obviously what you're talking about, the ability for play if it's installed correctly with a good drainage system. And
But if
those
it
types
rains,
of
it
things.
rains.
Correct. But from the standpoint, there is considerable amount of maintenance that still needs to take place on that. I think that's something that people get sold on from the standpoint of, oh, it's maintenance free, and that's just not the case. If you talk to the industry and the professionals that do take care of those types of fields, it takes quite a bit of maintenance and different types of equipment that have to come in. And then lastly, you have the heat. I measured just right there close to our office at Central High School on the band field, soccer field, on a 98-degree day, the artificial turf was measured up to 167 degrees Fahrenheit at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So again, for situations where you have nighttime games with lights, evening games, fall, winter, spring type activity, that may not come into play. But us trying to have a tournament in July with artificial infills or outfills can be quite devastating. And then you're up in the risk factor for heat issues. And so, again, as Carl pointed out, pros and cons to both. The biggest factor is initial cost going in.
And what's the live?
It varies. I know Hellas has done a lot of work with ASU as well as with SAISD. I would say probably 8 to 15 years, depending on how it's maintained. If it's maintained correctly with the right equipment and the right personnel, you could probably get 15 or so years out of it or more. But again, it depends on the use factor too. So if you have a soccer field and it's heavily utilized, obviously the wear is going to take its toll, and you'd have to come back and have that replaced.
I have gotten more calls about this one single topic in the past 60 days than any other topic
Mhm.
around. I just appreciate you bringing it up. There's a
Yes.
cost. Some people think it's just, oh, you roll it out, roll it in, cut it, and we're done. They don't understand that. It'd be great to have it. It'd be great to have a half and half, so you could always go with
Mhm.
something. But long story short, you just made public a lot of questions people don't understand. And I
And
appreciate it.
another one, Tom, on that is a little bit different topic, but on that, when people call in, a lot of those tournaments are not run by the city. So while our staff may be out there trying to do their best, at the end of the day, it's the person who's
Promoter.
putting on the tournament who makes the call, whether it continues or not, no
Correct.
matter what his staff does to ready those fields. So often we get caught in that as well.
Well, if it's raining, it's one thing about the field, but if it's raining at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or if it's raining at 9 a.m. in the afternoon, it's not about the field, it's about it's raining.
It's thunder and lightning.
It's
Yeah.
thunder and lightning, so it's not all about drainage and/or.
That's a good point.
Right, so I mean, it sounds simple, but it's not. And as he said, promoters are the ones who cancel it for. It's not our tournament, it's the promoter who either didn't get enough attention, enough teams, or decided to cancel for whatever reasons.
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's the end of the list, right? So with that, does that complete what we're doing today?
I just need direction on two things. Carl mentioned converting the $25,000 for parks from the Water Lily to the Concho River. Would you like for us to include that in that way? in the
Well, what
budget?
I heard was to continue with 25,000, but to use it for wayfinding throughout the city.
Okay.
And about
I
the
just wanted
downtown.
to
yeah.
confirm direction on that. And then
Yes.
on art and uncommon places, you mentioned increasing that allocation to $50,000 this year. Are we being directed to do that in the original budget as well?
I'm saying yes, but
Well, I mean, if it's there, yeah.
well, it's there, and I think if you look at what it has done for our city, it's a minimal investment with a big bang. And I think that's what we want to have happen.
Okay.
I think.
What do you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's there.
Taking your first day.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You have the direction.
It's just a matter of a few keystrokes.
Yeah.
It's a rounding error.
All right, so then I'm to ask for announcements and consideration of future agenda items, which we know we continue on with the budget workshops. And with that, we will consider a vote, a motion and a vote to adjourn this
Move.
budget workshop.
Move we adjourn.
I second.
Is there a vote to say yes?
Yes.
Yeah, we got her done. 7-0. Thank you, everyone who sat around, who contributed, who participated, and who educated us. It's greatly appreciated. We're walking out with a lot of information today and insight, and that's good.